All right, so knights and serfs are what we're going to take a look at. You should have the aim in your notebook. We just discussed some responses to the do now. So here we go. All right, I'll give you a second. All right, so knights are pulling double duty, kind of. They are police and they are military also, all rolled up into one job. So their primary job is protecting the manor that they live on. So they protect the people of that manor, and they also protect the noble of that manor, the people that own that manor, and they provide protection for everyone. And they are paid by the noble in land, which also makes them a vassal, which is a fancy word for landlord. We talked about that yesterday. So on the manor, they are the police force of the manor. But if war were to ever break out, kingdom to kingdom, the king can kind of summon the knights of all the manors in this kingdom to come and serve as a military force, to go to war with another kingdom. So they are both police and military. And their preparation is rigorous and starts at a very young age, very similar to samurai, similar to what we saw in Sparta, where the kids started really young. Knighthood is the same way. You start as a page, very young, which is kind of an understudy, to a knight, and you kind of work for a knight and learn the ropes, kind of, sort of. And then, as you continue to train and grow older, you eventually get the opportunity to become a knight yourself. And when you're a knight, you follow the code of chivalry. The code of chivalry is a code of behavior that governs the lives of knights. Everything from the way you're supposed to behave in public to the way you're supposed to treat certain people to traditions and customs, etc. Sometimes, this doesn't happen so much anymore because the old people are kind of all going away, but if you hold the door for someone significantly old, sometimes they will say, "Oh, how chivalrous." And what that means, what they're saying is, "Oh, you're showing good manners by holding the door for me. Thank you." So chivalry is a word that is still in some use a little bit, but it technically refers to this code of honor. So we definitely need to be aware of that. All right, I'll give you a second here. So serfs is the lowest of the lowest classes in European feudalism, and their condition that they live under, for many of them, are not very good. So their system is obviously labor in exchange for shelter and protection, and that's the payment. So there is no payment. There's just the noble is supposed to take care of the serf to a certain extent. So this becomes an economic function for landowners, nobles. Okay, if these serfs are going to provide you with labor, and your job is to provide them with shelter and take care of them to a certain extent, you are going to do the very bare minimum you must do in order to keep them working and alive. You're not, because this becomes a profit loss situation, right? The more resources you spend taking care of serfs, the less efficient their labor becomes, right? Because now you're paying for them to be doing this work. So the idea is you want to spend as little as possible supporting them. And that leads to really, really poor conditions. Every serf does not get their own house. You live in a house with all the serfs. Okay, so everyone lives on top of each other. It's very cramped. There's poor hygiene. Life expectancy is very low. Disease runs rampant. In general, and this is true for most of the world, with a couple of exceptions. Exclusive cities, like in really high class urban areas, are the exceptions. But in general, the higher economic class you are, the more space you have to yourself. So we know, just from the idea, super rich people live in gigantic mansions, right? And people who are, living, not as rich, some can live in very small apartments and cramped conditions, right? Very small. A lot of people, I grew up I lived for a while in a log cabin with 5 people, and it was not much bigger than our classroom. So it was, that's hard. Um, so in general, the more money you have, the more space you have. And these people have no money and they have no space at all. So the same is true for these people. Living conditions are terrible. Disease spreads quickly because everyone is so close to each other. People don't live very long. It's really, really a bad scene. So they're given just enough to kind of keep them up and running and working.